The public pressure was incredible. It was international pressure, looking at human rights abuses in the United States, looking at the torture and murder of somebody on TV. That was the moment.
You're someone who's had a career, a lifetime of service. And it's so interesting. You were one of those names. You were the name. You, along with Cory Booker, were the two Democratic names that were trying to work with Senator Tim Scott,
Right.
a Republican senator, African-American man from South Carolina, on issues of policing. What happened there?
I mean, it was very sad because I truly believed, and Senator Booker and I talked about this a lot. We had several moments in which I thought we could have gotten it over the finish line. And I believed if we didn't seize those moments, it probably wasn't going to happen. So the first moment, of course, when there were hundreds of thousands of people in the streets in every single state, that was the most important moment. That was the most important time to get it across the finish line. The public pressure was incredible. It was international pressure, looking at human rights abuses in the United States, looking at the torture and murder of somebody on TV. That was the moment. And then again, another moment happened when the trial started and the verdict, and then the murders that happened right after the trial, in the nearby areas. But we missed those moments. And you could question as to whether Tim Scott was ever genuine, but I do believe that he was. But personally, what I believe happened is that when he gave the rebuttal to the State of the Union speech last year, I think that was a seminal moment in his history, because after that, his profile really blew up in Republican circles, and he raised a ton of money. He was up for reelection, but he raised a lot of money. And then, there was word circulating, maybe he's presidential material. And I think once that happened, I think that led to him, backtracking. And it even got so far as I propose that we put into law President Trump's executive order, because truthfully, President Trump's executive order, when it was proposed, it was at the height of the protests. So even though we didn't like it then, a year later, it was a lot better than the ideas that were circulating. Senator Booker had a proposal that was great, but that wasn't acceptable to Scott. So as a last resort, I said, well, if you can't go with a proposal that Senator Booker negotiated with the police, the Fraternal Order of Police, they were on board, then how about Trump's executive order? Well, if you can't go with that, then it's off, because the reality is President Biden has not reversed Trump's executive order. So Trump's executive order is in effect today. The only difference would have been we would have put it into law. So at the end, Senator Scott was actually proposing that we do less than President Trump. And obviously we couldn't. Anytime you do legislation, the most important measure is do no harm. That would have done harm.
We have way too much free content over here at The Grio. Stream a world with free entertainment, lifestyle, and news content. Celebrating Black excellence 24/7. Download The Grio now. It's free. The Grio.